Namaste, Sasrikal, Assalamu Alaikum, Kallie from Radical Darshan and Rebel Yoga Tribe here. We're going to make masala chai together in real time. So this is not going to be a short video. Masala chai takes time to simmer for the flavors of the spices to infuse. And so let's be patient, my dear friends and community. We're going to be holding some Sangha and Chai gatherings on a regular basis. So when we invite you to join us, please prepare your masala chai in advance and you can either download or subscribe to get the recipe and also an introduction to the colonial history of tea and its sort of value to the colonizers through trade and labor exploitation. So the handout will also have that context, which is really important for us to remember. Now, masala chai, chai means tea, so we just say masala chai, not masala chai tea, because then we're saying masala tea. Okay, my friends, everything that we need. Now, the pan that I recommend you use should have like a lip. And if you've got a lip, then you can really pour the water in quite easily. So that's kind of my recommendation. Have everything set up that you need. Now, what are we going to be using? So on this plate, we have cloves. These are cloves, there you go. Cloves, black cardamom pods, green cardamom pods, jeera, cumin seeds, fennel seeds, star anise, cassia bark, cinnamon stick, sort of thumb size of fresh ginger, and some sugar. And here we've got, this is a blend of masala chai. It's black tea with a blend in it. It's from Jaipur in India. And if you don't have loose black tea or a particular type of masala tea leaves that you use, using tea bags is perfectly great. That's what we use when we don't have any loose tea or any tea freshly sort of brought over from India. I use Yorkshire tea. You can use Darjeeling, Assam, English breakfast, whatever your favorite black tea is. Okay, we also want to have some milk. So we've got whole organic milk, but you can use a vegan alternative. If you are using a vegan alternative, try and use one that can withstand simmering and boiling, because sometimes they do break down. Some water that we have handy here. You're gonna need a tea strainer and a receptacle in which to drink your tea. So it could be a glass, a mug, teapot, whatever you're going to put the tea in once it's ready. Okay, basic principles of making masala chai. You want to think about the ayurvedic properties of the spices that you're using, and the handout sets all those out for you. You need to simmer both when the spices are in the water and after you've added the milk, so that the therapeutic properties can be released. And your sense of smell is going to be quite helpful here. And I will talk to you about that sense of smell and some approximate timings. Let's get started. So, if you want to make tea, depending on the number of people, and you want to make 1 glass, what you want to do is have 3 parts water to 1 part milk. So, I want to make probably about 3 cups of tea. So there's, 1 each. So we're going to just get the water ready. So we're going to be drinking from this glass. So I'm going to use this glass or mug to measure out the tea. So I'm going to put on my cooker here, add my 3 glasses of water. So this is just can be lukewarm water or cold water. And you want to have a little bit of water on the side just as you progress, because you might want to look at the intensity of the flavors as you go along. Right, so thinking about we're going to use masala chai from Jaipur, which we bought a couple of kilos last time we were there. So we're going to add 1 to 3 teaspoons. So basically either a teaspoon or a tea bag per person or per cup. There's our tea gone into there. So it's all cold, it's all going to start warming up gradually. I'm going to put that out of the way. And then I'm going to add my cassia bark, cinnamon stick, star anise. I'm going to add 2 star anise there. I'm going to add 2 black cardamom pods. They're called elaichi, Kallie elaichi, and then we also have the green elaichi. So I've got, I don't know, 5 or 6. Now these can go in as they are, or you can put them in a pestle, just smash it up a little bit just to open up the pods. And you're just going to open the pods, and that releases the sweetness that goes in there. Now, I love cloves, so I'm going to have a real handful of cloves. So there's probably about 9, 10 cloves there. They all go in. And fennel seeds. So again, I mean, I don't really use, but I would say that's like a teaspoon again. Fennel seeds, which is, and then also my cumin seeds. Now cumin seeds, you want to be careful with cumin seeds. These are jeera. This is quite strong. So I'm just gonna, I mean, I've got a teaspoon there, but I'm gonna probably use about half a teaspoon. You want to start off with a low amount of jeera and cumin seed and see how that flavor feels for you, because it can be quite strong. And then ginger. Now ginger with the skin on, and I just slice it into sort of fairly thick slivers, and that goes in. Now that has got all of our key ingredients in for now. And let's put this to one side. So I need the sugar. So I'm going to turn the heat up a bit. So we start off with fairly high heat, and then we turn the heat down. And so I want to kind of show you where we're at now. So I've got my pan. As you can see, I've got all of my spices in there, my masala spices in there. I've got the heat on sort of medium to high, because I want to start boiling the water a little bit. Once the water gets to a boil, then we'll turn the heat down and allow it to simmer. So it's you're beginning to smell the aromas, thinking about the different qualities of the elaichi, the green elaichi, green cardamom pods, the Kallie elaichi, that's the black cardamom pods. So they're 2 different flavors. The green elaichi, the green cardamom pods, sweetness, and the black cardamom pods, more woody, smoky flavor. So kind of like, it's that balance between sweetness and pungency that you get from the different combination of spices. Now, especially if you add ginger, we want to boil the ginger, we want to kind of let the ginger become quite sort of infused into the water, because if we add the milk before the ginger has really sort of taken away that sharpness, the zinginess of ginger, it could curdle the milk. So we're just going to make sure that's one of the things we do when we add ginger. If you don't have all of these spices at hand, what I would recommend is thinking about the 3 key ones. Now, we're really beginning to see it's beginning to boil now. You can see all the bubbles. Maybe you can hear it beginning to sizzle. So I'm going to turn the heat down a bit to low to medium, because now we're in simmer stage. And once we start simmering, this is where the real time patience comes. We want to simmer for about 10 minutes as a minimum, and really let the flavors infuse. And then once we add the milk, we also want the flavors to infuse. You might wonder, well, when do we add the milk? They'll begin to the change in smell, and the release of the qualities of the different spices will begin to feel quite intense. The tea will become darker and darker. So here you can see it's already quite dark. We'll keep an eye on it, because evaporating at the same time. So we might want to add a bit more water, which is where I have extra water available. In the meanwhile, if you've got your serving glasses and you're serving, stand those with warm water so that they don't crack when you serve the tea in them. That happens to me quite often. Now, while that's simmering, I want to share with you a couple of the recipe books that I tend to use, because I think most recipes, when I learned to cook, I was standing in the kitchen alongside my mother, watching her, helping her prepare, chopping, peeling, chopping, stirring, and then gradually beginning to learn about all the different qualities of the spices and herbs that we use, and thinking about how they balance our doshas. So we all have constitutions, which is sort of our body, a physical, mental, emotional body maps, and vata, pitta and kapha. And depending on what your dosha is, whether it's kind of an element of fire, or it's more of an element of earth, or it's more of an element of air or water, you will have different expressions or manifestations of that energy. So masalachai is one of the few drinks that actually helps to balance all three doshas. It's tridoshik. And so particularly the cardamom, green cardamom pods are the queen of spices, which means that they are perfect in terms of balance for all of the doshas. Okay, now can you see that it's not bubbling so much? It's literally sort of simmering, the steam are rising out of it, the flavors are getting, it just smells incredible right now. So for me, I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit, because I want to start thinking about adding water, adding milk in a few minutes time. So I'm just going to let that simmer. Here I'm back with my favorite cookbook. This is Sabzi by Jasmine Khan, full of amazing vegetarian recipes, and this was a gift from my family recently, which I'm really enjoying and loving. Always have a Madhu Jafri in the house. This is a Madhu Jafri curry easy. I used to have like this compendium of Madhu Jafri recipes, a big sort of Bible of a book, and I gifted it to a friend, and I really missed it, but I couldn't find it again because it's sort of out of print. So I sort of got this this one as sort of a basic recipe to help people in my family learn how to cook different recipes, and then you can experiment. And I love Mira Soda's Made in India, some really, home cooking recipes in here. And then finally I have the shum. Now, I do really recommend the black dal recipe from here. It is amazing. And I'll tell you something, my masalachai recipe is better than the shum's masalachai recipe. Okay, so really looking fantastic. Look at the steam. You can see the water's evaporating. It's like dark, such a dark, potent color. And I think I'm going to add my milk. Now, again, so do you remember what I said about how much milk we need to add? We want to add, so it's 3 parts water to 1 part milk. So I'm going to add 1 glass of whole organic milk, and I'm just going to let that. So because I've just used cold milk in that glass, I'm going to fill it with some warm water. Right, now look at that colour. It's really light, isn't it? Now we're going to bring that up to a boil, and then we're going to simmer it, and you will see how the colour becomes gets darker and darker in more intense flavour. So we just turn the heat up. In the meanwhile, my glass is staying warm. So I've shared with you some top tips for which spices to choose. So 3 core ones are green cardamom pods, cloves, and I would say like cinnamon. And then everything else is optional. And have a look what's in your spice cupboard. You may say, Kallie, I don't have a spice cupboard. A little spice drawer, a little spice shelf, a little spice jar, whatever you've got going on. I, as an Indian, I'm obligated to have an entire cupboard with jars and jars of spices because I always want to be prepared. If any visitors come to my house, they're expecting some proper spicy ayurvedic recipes. Now, have a look what's going on in here. So you can still sort of fairly light in colour. There's a skin forming in the middle, bubbling around the outside. So that's good. So we're getting to the point where it's ready to rise. We need to keep a close eye on this because it rises and overflows from the pot very quickly. Look, it's rising. It's like really frothy right now. So at this point is when I turn the heat down to low to medium heat, and I'm just going to let that simmer away for a little while, and I'll keep a very close eye on it while it's doing that. So it's not quick making a cup of tea. I think it takes at least 20 minutes to make a decent masalachai, and in that time you are gathering in the kitchen with your friends and family, having conversations, having chats, making the most of your time together. There's no such thing as a drop-in into an Indian household. The very least amount of time that you can expect to stay there is half an hour. If you just drop in by with a very quick, like, just wanted to say hello and return something I borrowed, or you're going to be there for half an hour because they will insist you have a cup of chai. Okay, this is really lovely now. So, how do you know when the milk is ready? And I think this is the main difference between using cow's milk and vegan milk options, because with the cow's milk you can begin to smell the creaminess of the milk if you're using whole milk. And like I can smell the cream of the milk becoming infused with the spices. It'll take a bit of time. The key difference between masala chai and chai latte, which you might get, I don't know, in some coffee shop on the high street or in some fancy health food, wellness place. Chai latte is just like tea and then the milk added in afterwards. And it might be frothy milk, it might be warm milk, but that milk hasn't simmered with the spices, hasn't simmered, the black tea hasn't been simmering in the milk. So it's going to be a very different depth of flavour. Highly recommend it for more depth, for more Ayurvedic impact, really simmering the milk in with the tea and with the spices. Okay, now you can notice that, remember how light it was? It's now getting darker because it's simmering, and we'll leave it for a little longer because we like it quite dark. But we're not necessarily going to reduce milk. You could use less milk, but then it can feel really overpowering. So you want to have that ratio, that formula 3:1 with milk and water, and then just simmer for longer in order to intensify the flavour of the tea to where you like it. Okay. Now, the colonial history of tea. The East India Company initially was trading with China, very large quantities of exports from China, and essentially were monopolizing the tea trade. That there was some resistance and uprisings in China who wanted to reclaim the trade for their own land, their own people. And so there was conflict between kind of the East India Company and the British government and China around the export of tea. Tea had become hugely popular in Europe. It was a sign of civilization, of culture, of polite society. Rituals were created around tea. It became quintessentially English. So often when people think about England, they come and visit England, they want to go for high tea. So incredibly valuable commodity. With what was termed as the Opium Wars, but actually with the Tea Wars, because tea was far more valuable as an export than opium. But to discredit and demonize the sort of Chinese reclaim of their own trade, it sort of was recast as the Opium Wars. And meanwhile, the taxation on tea was the British were increasing taxation on tea. And so when you have the Boston Tea Party happening over in America, again, it was a sort of rising up and resisting the colonial powers that Britain had over the tea trade in different lands. Thinking about, and then then the tea trade shifted from China, from the British perspective, to India through the use of indentured labour. So tea was already a plant growing in the hills and particularly in Assam and in Darjeeling, and then it became sort of an industrialised and a factory complex of producing tea from India, now exported and exploited to Europe and particularly Britain. There's a really good podcast called The History of Tea by Satnam Sanghera. We're going to link you into an article looking at the colonial trade in tea, as well as some insights from Radhika Darshan. Now this tea is beginning to look really delicious. It's a lot darker. Now, what I realised is I didn't add sugar. So sugar, you would normally put the sugar in when you put in the milk. And I'm going to stick it in now. So I'm going to stick in like basically 2 teaspoons of sugar. This is not going to be enough for my partner. My partner is very used to the sweetness of the sugar-rich tea that my mum and my mussy make. So anything with less sugar is not seen as a perfect cup of tea. So always leave people to add sugar to their own taste. Add a couple of teaspoons so that you're happy with it. Right, now I'm getting this is beginning to smell quite intense now. So I think I'm going to be ready to pour this out in a moment. So make sure your glass that you're pouring it into has got warm water in already so it won't crack. Keep an eye that the milk doesn't overflow, and then you have to do a whole lot of cleaning. The cooker, the counter, the floor, and particularly milk. So one of the things I always used to do when I was left in charge of watching the tea to stop it from boiling over, I'd get distracted very easily and very quickly and start reading, and then I'd always end up having to clean the tea off the cooker. And you can imagine the upset with the waste of this tea that had been simmering for 20 plus minutes, and now I sort of, half of it's on the cooker. So you want to watch that. Okay, I think I'm pretty ready with this. And I do one last sort of like frothiness, so that we get all the frothiness coming up. So I'll turn the heat up in the last minute or so. And I'm just gonna now this is where we play chicken. How far will the froth rise before I am able to lift the pan or turn the heat off? Gonna watch it to the very, I think, kind of around there. Got my strainer ready. So So Sangha and Chai is going to be kind of, I think, probably the first Wednesday of each month that you can join if part of our wider community. For our alumni, we have our alumni community gathering every third Wednesday of the month. And we have at the moment partial scholarships for Black, Asian, Global Majority and queer, non-binary and trans folk, because we want to really create spaces to include our family members who are often excluded. And that closes on the 1st of June. Our early bird offer closes on the 30th of June. Both very generous, and that's the commitment that Janelle and I have made and Radical Darshan have made to you. Okay, I think I'm ready to pour this out. Oh, I hope this is a good cup of tea. Yeah, you can smell the aromas, they're all releasing there. Okay, now make sure that glass is nice and warm. I'm just going to pour it out here so I can make sure that you can see what I'm doing. There we go. So I've got my tea strainer. In fact, while I do, I'm going to put it over here so I can see, because at the moment I can't see what I'm doing. So I'm going to put this over here so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this is where it comes handy, having that sort of lip on the. So start off just a little bit, allow the glass to just get accustomed to the heat, because remember this is boiling. So we're just going to do a little bit at a time. That's my strainer. So we have our masala chai. Happy drinking, friends.